Yeah, hi. Alrighty, folks, ladies and gentlemen. So let's finally talk about this whole WWE and TNA partnership. So WWE has been doing this whole partnership with TNA for almost a year now. Well, actually, over not almost a year. Actually, if you really think about it, the TNA partnership has been going on for a while, but it's been more eventual or more shown upon of being a thing since I think right after WrestleMania, more so after WrestleMania. Well, it really kind of started really since the Royal Rumble of last year of 2024, where you saw Naomi, who was I think the women's champion or whatever. Actually, or she was still in technically a TNA wrestler or whatever, and then she eventually just joined WWE. But then Jordan Grace was in the Royal Rumble. It was basically since the Royal Rumble, and then after that, NXT showcased a bunch of wrestlers who are from TNA. And then now it's official that they have announced that WWE and TNA are both announced to have a multi-year agreement to allow NXT and TNA wrestlers to appear on each other's shows. And yeah, weekly shows, PLEs or whatever. This is more so just for NXT. Just I guess to bring some intrigue for NXT or whatever. Um, I mean, I don't know. Maybe things will happen when it comes to, I don't know. Maybe like eventually we might see TNA wrestlers being in the main roster. You never know. It can happen, but here's the thing about this whole TNA partnership. So when it originally started, we saw Mickey James appearing on TNA, or who was on TNA, but they needed women in the Royal Rumble, and they asked Mickey James to be a part of the Royal Rumble. So there was an agreement with that back in 2022. And then since then, yeah, there's been ideas of trying to interact with TNA. Listen, here's my thoughts on this whole TNA partnership with WWE, right? Let's just say it's 10 to 15 years too late to see this shit. Okay? I'm gonna be honest with you. As a wrestling fan, I'm not really a fan of the modern, or I don't really care so much for this modern TNA, okay? I'm sorry, TNA is not what it used to be. TNA is literally, again, it's a glorified indie fed, right? Or it's unfortunately don't. That's the only reason why WWE is doing this partnership with TNA. By the way, folks, in case you are wondering, it's 10 to 15 years too late. If you wanted to do a partnership or interaction with TNA, the time was 10 to 15 years ago, and that was not going to happen because TNA at the time was a bit of competition. It was more of a competition than AEW was, in all honesty. And there was more intriguement with TNA at that time. TNA back in the day had guys like the Main Event Mafia people. You had AJ Styles, Samoa Joe, all basically some of the people that went on, that were the big stars, that were former world champions from TNA. People remember. And that went on to even be a part of WWE. That's when people cared. If you were going to do a partnership, that's what people wanted to see. People wanted to see stuff like that. Again, look at even back in like all these fantasy bookings when you did WWE games. Like if you remember SVR Global, if you remember this channel, if you remember like back in those days, like people wanted to see, like Sting versus Undertaker, like or stuff like this, like the booking that you saw on this channel, stuff like that. Like all these fantasy bookings, with WWE wrestlers and TNA wrestlers at the time, like that was the time, man. Those were actual things to look forward to. The Jeff Jarrett, Mr. McMahon, even like Kane versus Abyss and all that kind of stuff. Like I'm sorry, but like first of all, there's nobody in TNA that really people give a damn about. Let's be honest, a lot of people in TNA are jobbers. Okay, they're indie wrestlers, and it's just not how it was when back in the day when people actually would love to see an invasion type of storyline. Even though, like, how would it benefit both companies when both companies were technically in competition? But at the same time, like, that's when people would have rather see when WWE and TNA would interact, because that would have been fun. People would have basically want to see former WWE guys in TNA basically face, the current WWE guys of that time. Back in, let's say, if you were doing these storylines from like 2009, 2010, 2011 time, like, that's when that would have been freaking great to see a partnership. That would have been freaking awesome. But unfortunately, that didn't happen. But again, this is only happening because AEW is a thing, and AEW is sadly the second biggest competition they have. It's the second, it taken over TNA as the competition, and WWE doesn't even see TNA as competition anymore. It's not competition, so that's the only reason why they're doing this whole dumb partnership, is because TNA is not competition. TNA is literally just, sure, it may be an alternative for people to watch, but it's really not going to be, it's not even an alternative in the terms of a competition, to WWE. It's literally just, again, just another company where wrestlers can have an opportunity. That's really it. I mean, that's where guys like Ziggler is at now and all that kind of stuff. But you never know. Eventually, WWE, and this is what might be happening, WWE's could probably buy TNA eventually, and that's what leads to TNA becoming a WWE product. Like, that's what might even be the case at that point. You never know. I mean, that's what I would kind of see at that point. It might just be, and then TNA will end up being, like, basically developmental for WWE. You never know. That's what most likely might be the case. Because TNA, let's be honest here, it is on its dying days. Okay? It is. TNA is not growing as people think it is. It's only literally getting this whole little buzz because they're a partnership with WWE, and that's really it, And also, again, the former WWE guys that they do have, it's really just going to be like for those modern smarky fans to enjoy. So, and again, it just kind of seemed like a trend that you still have your typical TNA fanboys that are retards. They're going to be like, TNA's the best, guys. Enjoy the actions. Yeah. They're going to try to find us. See, because AEW sucks now, we're going to look at to like TNA again. But again, whatever. In the end of the day, guys, I'm not too fond of this idea, nor do I care. I mean, sure, it's probably cool that hopefully, we'll see maybe the Hardys interact with WWE again, but they're, like, under TNA and all that kind of stuff. That's what the only thing I see with, like, the only positive about TNA is, like, we get to see former WWE guys, I guess, or even guys who never really were a part of WWE, but they're would be under that umbrella. Like, you've seen, like, for example, Frankie Kazarian was never a part of WWE, but he was, like, on NXT for one point for, like, some battle royal. Joe Hendry being showcased was pretty cool. But other than that, like, who really cares? You know what I mean? I'm sorry, but TNA is just, there's a reason why they're doing this partnership anyways, because TNA is basically proven that it's not the competition. That's the only reason why it's happening, folks. So whatever, so be it. TNA WWE partnership. It's 10 to 15 years too late, folks. Until next time, peace. Yeah, bye.